Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to our weekly media briefing and public health update with Montgomery County Executive Mark Elrich. I'm Lorna Virgili, Hispanic Public Information Officer, and joining us today are Dr. James Bridgers, Director of the Department of Health and Human Services, Mr. Sean O'Donnell, Assistant Chief of Public Health Services, Dr. Earl Stoddard, who is the Assistant Chief Administrative Officer for the county. And our guests this afternoon are Dana Pauly, who is the President and CEO of Leadership Montgomery, as well as Mr. Anthony Featherstone, Executive Director of WorkSource Montgomery, and Ben Stevenson, who is the Director of our Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I see the county executive is still getting ready. You're good to go? Scott, Mr. Executive?
I need a second. Okay.
All right. Welcome. The floor is yours now.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us again today. And I'm here in Silver Spring because I just attended the Fair Chance Symposium. It's a job fair for former inmates seeking employment. April is Second Chance Month. Time to recognize the challenges that people face after returning to the community from the criminal justice system, and to highlight the importance of employment for successful reentry. WorkSource Montgomery supports this effort through programs that help returning citizens build skills, find jobs, and access community resources. This is the third annual Fair Chance Employment Symposium that we've done, and it's a job fair also. The event brings together employers, partners, and community organizations to connect job seekers with training and employment opportunities, as well as reentry support. And that help includes entrepreneurship training led by local business leaders, financial literacy workshops in partnership with SECU, peer support and mental health training through Give an Hour, and entrepreneurship programs offered inside correctional facilities and reentry centers. Ongoing post-release support through the Justice Empowerment Center that's in the Wheaton office, which offers job readiness services, training, peer support, and connections to fair chance employers. We have over 50 companies and organizations at the job fair today, and I thank all of them for the willingness to hire individuals who've made mistakes in the past. Finding employment in this job market is tough, and having a criminal record can reduce the likelihood of a job callback roughly by 50 to over 60%. It's important, and it's part of the mission of our Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation to make sure that people are ready to rejoin the workforce when they get out of incarceration. We've invested money 3 years ago to reopen our Sweet Release Bakery program, and I propose to continue that funding in the 27 budget. This program is providing its participants with marketable skills, and companies like Nothing Bundt Cakes have hired some of the participants. And WorkSource Montgomery has a satellite office in the pre-release center and a one-stop shop at the Clarksburg Detention Center. These efforts and programs help reduce recidivism. And here's a scary statistic from the Prison Policy Initiative. Roughly 1 in 4 people who go to a local jail return within a year, while approximately 62% of people released from state prisons are rearrested within 3 years. 39% are reincarcerated. Within 5 years, the reincarceration rate can increase to over 60%, with higher rates for men and those under 21. And when someone is incarcerated, it costs all of us more. In Maryland, it costs about $60,000 to house an incarcerated individual per year, $5,000 a month. That's nearly twice the amount it costs to attend the University of Maryland. This is an important effort, and I appreciate the work of WorkSource Montgomery and our Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation in doing this. I want to welcome back to this media briefing the Executive Director of WorkSource Montgomery, Anthony Featherstone, as well as Department of Corrections Director, Ben Stevenson, to talk a little bit more about this issue. So, Anthony, will you provide us a little update on the other efforts in outreach in WorkSource and what we're doing?
Yep, sure. So thank you, Mr. County Executive, for inviting me to join today. As you mentioned, this is Second Chance Month, where we recognize the barriers that nearly 1 in 3 adults in the United States have when it comes to being justice involved at some point in time. But not just recognizing those barriers, we want to also promote and advocate for fair chance hiring for those individuals, because they do face specific barriers when it comes to finding a job and getting into careers that can provide a livable wage. And so, as you mentioned, this is Second Chance month, and we're doing a lot of events and hiring and advocacy during the month of April, but this work really happens year round. Proud to say that Montgomery County has the Justice Empowerment Job Center located at 11510 Georgia Avenue. It is the only job center within the state of Maryland that is tailored to the needs of justice impacted residents. And so you can come into the job center and engage in career coaching, receive barrier remediation support, get help with connecting to training and financial support for training. Or if you're just returning home from incarceration, you can get access to transitional employment, where you can be placed on a work site with a local employer or partner or nonprofit and receive a wage immediately during that work experience placement. And so that's a little bit about the work that we're doing in the community. We're doing some awesome work with our partners at the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation with Director Stevenson. And I'll hand it to him to talk a little bit about that work.
Sure. Thank you, Director Featherstone. Our relationship with WorkSource Montgomery began around 2007. For almost 20 years, we've been facilitating a one-stop shop employment center within our Clarksburg jail facility. And most importantly, under Director Featherstone's leadership, which we thank tremendously, WorkSource Montgomery has increased its programs and services for our incarcerated individuals. He's created a dual-track reentry program that provides more job preparedness skills and training for those that are within our custody. WorkSource Montgomery has increased its outreach to provide job-related training presence, not just at our jail, but also at our pre-release center in North Bethesda. This is integral for our department's mission in providing job services for those that are inside our correctional facilities and also returning to our communities. We're appreciative for this collaborative partnership. Our collaborative work helps not only transition people into the community, but also reduces recidivism. And so our department thanks WorkSource Montgomery and their work with our population and other DOCR programs like our Sweet Release program that's very important and teaches valuable trade skills that improves one's livable working wage upon return to the community. So we thank this collaborative project with Executive Director Featherstone, as well as the county executive support and county council support as well in the funding of such programs that improve our mission. I would love for our budget to be reduced based on us doing an even better job in making sure that our jails aren't full and we're providing good reentry skills to those returning to the community.
Yeah, thank you, Director Stevenson. You and your team do outstanding work over at DOCR. And so, just in closing about Second Chance Month, if you have been justice involved and you are trying to figure out how to navigate the labor market, please come see us. Visit us at www.worksourcemontgomery.com. We're here to help you find out what your next step may be when it comes to employment. Two other updates really quickly. The Federal Workforce Career Center is still busy serving federal workers when it comes to providing career coaching, career counseling, professional development, occupational skills training, but ultimately connecting federal workers and contractors who've been impacted by reductions to new employment opportunities. And so that center is also located at 11510 Georgia Avenue in Wheaton. So we want all of our federal workers and contractors that are looking for help in navigating the labor market to know that we're here. And we're here to serve you and help you find out what your next opportunity is in navigating that path. Lastly, artificial intelligence is, permeating the labor market right now, and it's evolving each and every day. One of the things that we want to ensure is that our residents, whether you're unemployed, underemployed, or employed, are equipped with the tools from a generative AI standpoint so that you can be more effective in your personal life and in your professional life. And so each Friday, beginning on April 10th, we are going to deploy our Future Friday workshops. And these are workshops where you can do a 90-minute workshop virtually to learn what AI is, how to use it, how to prompt, how it hallucinates, and so forth, so that you can become more skilled when it comes to the deployment of artificial intelligence from a generative AI standpoint. From there, you can also jump into a deeper dive workshop in person where you get hands-on practical experience doing certain prompts and so forth with AI experts. And so we just want the public to know that, as AI evolves, and if you're unsure of what it is or how to use it in your personal or professional life, that these workshops are open to the public. You can visit again our website at worksourcemontgomery.com and navigate to our calendar to sign up for those workshops. And lastly, I always, give a call to action to any job seeker who needs support, whether you are justice impacted, a federal worker looking to learn about AI, or in any other walk of life. Please come see us and connect with us if you need help with finding employment. If you're an employer who's looking for help with hiring folks, please connect with us as well. We're here to serve. And if there are any reporters that want to learn more about our programs, we're open to tours, so you can learn more about our 10 American Job Centers here in Montgomery County. So, Mr. County Executive, thank you again for the time, and I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Members of the media, do you have any questions regarding these topics for either Director Featherstone or Director Stevenson or the County Executive? Please raise your hands. Any questions about these topics? No questions? Well, directors, you can remain on this call if you'd like to. If not, you're free to depart. Mr. County Executive, I think you were going to say something.
I was going to say the next thing. So I want to thank Anthony and Ben for being here today. I'll talk a little bit about Leadership Montgomery and the new business center partnership that's been created. While Anthony and WorkSource Montgomery County's efforts are working on finding those unemployed opportunities, we also know that many of our smaller businesses and nonprofits are suffering from challenges and downsizing in the federal government, losing grant funding, or just being redlined because the Trump administration doesn't believe in their work or mission, which occurred very swiftly last year to several very large international nonprofits that counted on USAID grants and which had lots of Montgomery County employees. We still have not seen or felt the full impact of these actions on many employers in the county, which is why we need to act now. We're responding by partnering with Leadership Montgomery to provide direct practical support to businesses and nonprofits who are navigating this new environment. The LEAD forum on April 30th, and LEAD is the name of the forum, at the Silver Spring Civic Building, is about bringing people together, contractors, nonprofit leaders, federal workers, to talk honestly about what's changing and what comes next. We've kept the cost low, especially for federal workers, because we know many people are going through a difficult transition right now. But this isn't just a one-day event. We're launching a series of monthly training sessions focused on procurement, funding strategies, and how to diversify revenue streams. And beyond that, we're building a year-long cohort program that gives organizations the time, tools, and support they need to actually rethink and strengthen their business models. I'd like to invite another guest to discuss the plans moving forward, and that's Dana Pauly. She's President and CEO of Leadership Montgomery. So, Dana, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, County Executive Elrich, for having me this afternoon. I'd like to start by telling you a little bit about Leadership Montgomery. We are a community leadership organization that provides programs and services to connect and prepare cross-sector leaders across business, nonprofit, and government to address complex challenges. And it is through that work that we are pleased to partner with the Business Center to provide practical, applied leadership and capacity building support for businesses and organizations that are navigating federal changes. This partnership is a coordinated effort to strengthen Montgomery County's economic ecosystem during a period of significant disruption and uncertainty. So it was great to hear what's happening on the employee side and the resources that are there to help people to find jobs, and it's nice to be able to talk about things that will help employers and those who wish to get to a point where they are employers in the future. So you highlighted the three things that we'll be doing through this partnership. The first I'll talk about is our monthly training series, which kicks off April 23rd. Those will be once a month virtually. There is no cost for any of those trainings, and they are on a range of topics that will help to provide people to understand the the current landscape, think about changes they might be wanting to make within their operations or their revenue models, and how to build new relationships accordingly. The next thing is our lead forum, Business Resilience, which is taking place on April 30th at the Silver Spring Civic Building. We are pleased to have our keynote speaker as Comptroller Brooke Learman from the state of Maryland, who will then go into a panel discussion. And then we have breakout sessions and exhibitors throughout the day that are going to be there to give practical and applied information for things that people might need as they're trying to understand the current landscape and make changes that are necessary. The last thing that we're offering is our advanced cohorts, which will start at the end of May. The deadline to apply for that is on May 20th. This cohort is an opportunity for people to receive information from subject matter experts on topics from analyzing their strategy to thinking about the way that they're doing business to starting to make those changes. And at the end of it, businesses and nonprofits will either have a new business plan or a new strategic plan. They will also receive coaching and go through a process of ecosystem mapping so that they can start to make new relationships. The goals around all of these are to equip participants to make informed decisions, support organizations in identifying and pursuing new opportunities across sectors, and helping them to build the relationships necessary to support strategic and operational shifts. We're doing this to make sure that Montgomery County businesses and nonprofits are positioned not just to respond, but to remain viable and competitive. So when we think about this time and what still is ahead of us, we know that organizations are going to need actionable guidance right now, not just information, and to build or rebuild access points in the public and private procurement space. Many of them are navigating changes in funding, contracts, and the market access simultaneously. And really, this is about ensuring that organizations in Montgomery County have the clarity, capacity, and connections needed to move forward. We have the ability for people to learn more or to register for anything that I've mentioned through our website, which is leadershipmontgomerymd.org. And I just want to make sure that everybody understands that ultimately this is about ensuring that organizations in Montgomery County have the clarity, the capacity, and the connections needed to move forward.
Thank you very much, CEO Pauly, for joining us today. Members of the media, do you have any questions for CEO Pauly from Leadership Montgomery regarding this venture? No questions? Okay. Well, Dana, it's so good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Again, you can remain here on the call, or you could depart if you have.
Can you wait like 15, 20 minutes?
Oh.
I can stay on. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. All right. Well, I guess, Mr. County Executive, you can continue with other topics, and then Suzanne will have several questions. Go ahead.
And I'm sure I'm going to talk about a topic of which there will be questions, and I'm going to talk about the recommended operating budget. This week, the County Council began hearing from the public about my proposed FY27 budget, which features a 6.3-cent property tax increase to fully fund Montgomery County Public Schools with a $3.8 billion investment. This budget preserves core services, including public safety, affordable housing, transportation, and healthcare, while addressing rising costs and reduced federal aid and reduced state aid. I appreciate all the residents and organizations taking their time to provide comment throughout the process, and we proposed increasing funding for our community health clinics because they are anticipating the change to federal health care subsidy, which is going to result in thousands of more uninsured people who will be turning to our clinics. We have millions more of state costs to the county that have been shifted to the county, $30 million for the pensions alone that we didn't pay 2 years ago. There's now in the county's lap. There was no revenue that came to pay for that. We're looking at job losses likely to exceed 20,000 people who average close to $150,000 in annual income, which is a significant reduction in income taxes. And then there's the $45 million ice storm that reduced our surplus. This afternoon, there will be a community rally at the County Council calling for full funding of Montgomery County Public Schools. I hope their voices are heard by the council and reported by the media. The schools made a very good point, I think, to us when they were talking about what a lot of this money is going for. Last year, we provided more special education staffers for the classroom. They still have a problem with not enough people to write the reports. And why does writing a report matter? In some worlds, being late for a report is just routine. But in the world of special education, being late for required reports on a student can result in, by default, the parent being allowed to send the child to a private school at the expense of the school system. In other words, it gets incredibly expensive if these reports aren't done. And the teachers who are the classroom teachers have had responsibility for doing the reports, and it has been an enormous burden that has not been able to be handled by the staff in the current configuration. They asked for additional staff that can handle those reports, and they believe that the money we'll save on private placements will pay for the people who are handling the reports now. We will see how that bears out, but it's certainly a significant problem. And as a teacher who, sat in on the IEPs and know how important the IEP is to the students and the parents and to the school system, this is something you cannot afford to do wrong. I recommended fully funding the Board of Education's request because the needs are real and they've been building for a long time. When you adjust for inflation, our per pupil spending still hasn't got back quite to where it was with the Great Recession. The total spending, if you include the state money, has finally reached that level. County spending is still about $1,000 less per pupil than we were spending back then. And the things that have been loaded on the school system by the state are not insignificant. We've had 15 years of trying to do more with less, while expectations on our schools have only increased. Those two things don't work very well. You cannot reduce funding on a per pupil basis for the schools and then somehow magically think that everything is going to work the way it did when the schools had more funding. Getting back to the level has been a goal of mine since I've been county executive, and this budget takes a very meaningful step toward that. There's also urgency here. We're seeing the impacts in our classrooms, larger needs, more students requiring support, and a system that's been stretched. If we don't act now, we're going to pay for it later, and it's going to cost more, not just financially, but in the outcomes for our students. We only have children in our system for a finite amount of time, and kicking the can on funding the best education we can for these families is not an option. The largest portion of this increase goes to the negotiated compensation agreements. Teachers, I think, as everybody realizes, are not the highest paid profession in the world for the amount of education required. They're probably underpaid. The largest portion of this increase goes toward the compensation agreements. It's about recruiting and retaining the best teachers and staff. You can't have a strong school system without a stable and experienced workforce, and people have options. And if we don't stay competitive, we're going to lose the people. This is a real thing. The state of Maryland has set pay targets for all the counties, which would bring all the counties close to what Montgomery County pays. And here's the rub. We are probably the most expensive place in the county to live. So paying somebody the same in Montgomery County as you would pay them in Anne Arundel County or Howard County or Garrett County or Frederick County means that people may well walk with their feet and decide to teach in a place where the pay is closer to what they can afford in terms of housing in their environment and other costs of living. So being only equal to other people is not a position Montgomery County can afford to be in. Because of the cost of living, we have to be able to pay more than other jurisdictions are able to pay. We've also made significant investments in special education. When you don't have the capacity to meet students' needs with MCPS, then we end up placing students in private settings that are far more expensive, and we're going to pay for those payments and placements, and they are truly expensive. And Dr. Taylor's been clear about this, and he's right. We have to get out of the cycle. Building capacity inside our own system is better for students and more responsible financially over time. I also want to address the comment that was reported yesterday in the banner that Councilmember Lukey said that using one-time reserve funds for ongoing needs is insane. I don't mean to correct the council member, but I'm going to. My recommended budget actually uses surplus funds above the 10% reserve target. This is something that the council has done routinely in previous years. They've actually increased the draw on the surplus even farther than I went. So, my budget actually uses these surplus funds, and this is a pretty routine thing for us to do. And I want to be clear, we're not drawing down our reserves. In fact, we achieved the reserve target of 10% for the first time ever during my administration. And we have stayed above 10%. We've had reserves as high as 17%. So we've routinely exceeded the reserves. And because of that, because this is money that's come from residents, we've put the money back into programs or services or projects that people in the community want that didn't fit into the previous year's budget. We have done this routinely, but we have also committed to staying above even the 10% level. For example, this year we proposed a higher level than 10% because we know there are going to be some things that are invariably going to lead to unforeseen expenditures, and we wanted to be in a situation that we can handle those things without having to draw our reserves below 10%. So we've been maintaining our reserves, thank you very much, and we're going to continue to maintain our reserves. It's the surplus portion that we're using to address these needs, like education. This isn't insane. It's reasonable and a prudent discussion. We've used the surplus to address needs that weren't addressed in the budget, and the council, like I said, has drawn down on them in the past. This year, while we see revenue projections above the previous year, they are lower by almost half than the increase that was projected a year ago for this year coming up. We had been on a very good track. Then we had this little problem. Donald Trump got elected. It's had a negative impact on employment and business in the entire DC area. It's had a serious impact on real estate. It's had job impacts. We've lost close to 20,000 jobs, and 20,000 jobs, and their federal jobs averaging close to $150,000 a job translates into a serious loss in tax revenue from people who aren't working for the federal government. We've lost major nonprofits like USAID. Many of those people worked in Montgomery County, lived in Montgomery County, and paid taxes here. They no longer have jobs. The president's been pretty straightforward about what he's doing, financing his massive tax cuts for the wealthy by abandoning programs and shifting responsibilities to the states and counties. I think we all heard him loud and clear the other day when he said, we're now in a war economy. So childcare is not going to be funded. Medicare is not going to be funded. All these things that help people are not going to get funding. Housing is not going to be funded. So this puts the state and the counties in a real serious position. You either take this threat seriously and we figure out how we're going to address those needs, or you basically embrace Trump's philosophy that we're going to shrink the government. So if the government passes something on to us, we're not going to do it, which means the services we deliver to people are going to get less, or we, bite the bullet and deal with the fact that we're going to have to spend more money to do the things that we need to do. Not because we're choosing to, but because we're being put in a situation where protecting this community and protecting the things we value is only possible by making some of these changes. We did look at the tax increase that we're proposing and what the tax benefits are that most households are getting. We looked at single person households and married couple households at varying income levels. And for people who own homes, the amount of tax increase is generally lower than the amount of tax cuts that people are receiving from the federal government. If you were a person who supported the president, you should have known what he said when he said he's going to shift these responsibilities to the states. He didn't say the responsibilities were going to go away. He said he was shifting them to us. Well, shifting them to us means the cost came to us also. Nobody should be surprised about that. Finally, I want to reiterate a point that I've been making repeatedly. In both DC and Northern Virginia, those jurisdictions level higher real estate taxes and other taxes on commercial property and businesses than we do. And I propose moving to a tax structure more like Virginia's. In Northern Virginia, Fairfax County, for example, if your commercial property, your base tax rate is $1.26 or $1.27. In Montgomery County, it's $1.03. If you're in Tyson's Corner or Reston, your taxes approach $1.50. That doesn't happen here. In addition to that, Fairfax County has a business licensing tax. That tax yields $200 million a year to the Fairfax County government for their budget. Montgomery County has no such tax. We do not get any tax like that from the business community compared to what Virginia gets. That would allow us to reduce the reliance on real estate taxes. And we had state legislation that would have given the county the ability to do that. Right now, the state of Maryland requires all counties to have the same rate of property taxes for residents and commercial property. Oddly enough, municipalities don't have to do that, but counties have to do that. There was legislation that I was supporting and other people were supporting that would have let Montgomery County and other counties have a different rate for residential and commercial, just like they do in Virginia and DC. The council refused to support it. Because the council refused to support it, legislators said, if you and the council aren't on the same page, this bill's not coming out. So the bill's not coming out. So if the council really wanted to lower the tax burden on residents, we could follow what DC does and what Virginia does. I want to use DC as a last example because it's my favorite one. Residential property taxes are only 85 cents in the District of Columbia. So that would be about 18 cents lower than Montgomery County. Commercial property taxes, if the property is worth $2 million to $5 million, you pay $1.66. So that's 63 cents higher than us. If your property is worth $5 million to $10 million, you pay $1.77, which puts you at about 74 cents higher than us. If your property is worth $10 million or more, you pay $1.89. So for those of you thinking about this, think about the impact of expensive commercial property paying $1.89 while residents are paying 85 cents. The only way the residents can pay that little is somebody else has to make up the difference. You don't see people abandoning DC. You don't see people abandoning Northern Virginia. Somehow though, every time you raise this issue, it's like, well, this will make us not competitive. We're already competitive. We're so competitive, we've won the race to the bottom. But being at the bottom, having the lowest tax rates on commercial property has not gotten us development. What got Northern Virginia development was investment in infrastructure. They took those taxes, didn't use it on schools, didn't use it on healthcare, put the money into transportation projects that drove economic development. That is the path that we ought to be following. There's a reason why we've not been able to build any BRT in Montgomery County. It's because we don't have the tax revenues to support it being built the way it should have been built. And Virginia, on the other hand, arms itself with a tax policy that lets it build. And we need to do the same. As long as we're stuck on this idea that we have to live within our means and you can't raise your taxes, Montgomery County is going to continue to be the poor stepsister compared to Northern Virginia because we just simply can't match them on what they put into infrastructure. And in case you want to know tax rates for who's around us, I mean, I'm using, obviously, I would say, the best targets for comparison. But if you were to say, if Montgomery County raises its taxes, I'm going to Frederick County, you'll be greeted by an $1.11 property tax in Frederick County. If you say I'm going to Howard County, you'll be greeted by a $1.34 property tax on both residential and commercial, by the way. And if you go to Prince George's County, it's about $1.37. So everybody around us has a higher rate than we do, except for the District of Columbia, which has an extraordinarily high rate on commercial property. But Montgomery County's taxes aren't out of line. If council members want to have a fair system that burdens our residents less, there's an easy way to do it. You just have to be willing to tax the development community and not put so much of a burden on residents. And as far as, tax benefits go, the council's had no problem passing multiple bills that reduce taxes on commercial property in the development process, reducing taxes that were meant to provide money for infrastructure in the county, which means the money that doesn't come from development for infrastructure has to come from, you guessed it, residents. So I appreciate their concern for taxes and fairness, but if you can't afford to fund the programs that we need in the county, you sure can't afford tax cuts for millionaires in the county either. Our alcohol beverage services is once again opening registration for its annual whiskey lotteries. So here's good news. This is one of the ways we try to ensure residents have a fair opportunity to purchase some of the rarest and most sought after bottles. For some of our residents, this is probably the most exciting government program we run. This year, we'll have more than 900 limited availability bottles available, including some that are not shelved. There are 2 lotteries. One is open to all Maryland residents who are 21 and over. The second is just for Montgomery County residents. It's easy to take part in. It's free. It's easy to sign up. Just make sure you meet the residency requirements. Registration opens at 12:01 on Sunday, April 12th, and closes on Saturday, April 18th. It's free, it's easy, and just to make sure you meet the residency requirements. After registration closes, winners will be selected at random, and the results will be posted online at noon at April 22nd. If you're selected, you'll be able to purchase your bottle at a designated ABS store between April 25th and May 23rd. We try to run the lottery this way because it's transparent and fair for everyone. So for those who are interested, I encourage them to sign up. ABS is a very unique system to Montgomery County that is not replicated by our neighbors. ABS manages alcohol licensing, enforcement, and education for more than 1,000 county businesses, generating more than $35 million in net income annually. Its profits are used to pay down county debt, with a large portion deposited in the general fund to pay for resident services that would otherwise be funded by county tax dollars. ABS employees are also county employees. They're paid fairly, they're paid decently, and they receive benefits. I think this system works very well, and I've been a continued supporter of the system. Every election year, someone generally brings up the idea that we need to end the system and let the private sector take over. It's a bad idea, and it's a bad deal for our county taxpayers. So before we open the questions, I want to give my staff an opportunity to provide any updates they want to share, and I'll start with my health team.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive. Dr. Bridgers, do you have any comments you'd like to start with?
Sean, I'll turn it over to you, and you have a laundry list of updates and great things to share with the public since this week is National Public Health Week. I think the theme this week is Ready, Set, Action. So take it away.
Thank you. So first I want to start with, we're holding an event to recognize our public health colleagues across HHS, and we have a meeting tomorrow with the Secretary of Health in Maryland, Dr. Seshamani, where she'll address our staff, and we'll have a chance to recognize some of their accomplishments as well. And I think that's a great opportunity. These staff are the hidden shield within Montgomery County, protecting the residents, protecting expectant mothers and families with newborns to make sure they have safe pregnancies, to help address the health needs of our school-age children, and when they show up to a health room, get them back to the classroom as soon as it is safe to do so they can continue learning. Ensure that all of our food venues, our restaurants, our food trucks, our special events are all practicing safe measures so that there are not foodborne outbreaks, reducing the number of vaccine preventable diseases and communicable diseases, and then assuring that there's access to somatic, behavioral, and dental health, regardless of ability to get insurance for all of our residents, so that everyone has an opportunity to be healthy. So again, we're celebrating our staff who do this work throughout the year. And then we have a number of events that are open to the public. I'll drop some of that in the chat, but just to name a few, this Saturday, we have our Walk with a Doc. That's where Dr. Keisha Davis will be walking with members of the community to answer their health questions and promote the importance of physical activity. That will be happening at Holy Cross Hospital on Saturday. We have registration links for each of these events, which I'll put in the chat. We have an event next Wednesday, Planning Ahead for Solo Aging, a workshop focused on planning for future care needs and guidance on decision making. And then on Sunday, April 19th, we'll have a CPR and naloxone training event. Again, making sure that members of the public are able to provide these, in some cases, life-saving interventions. So I'll drop this in the chat. We do ask people to register for these events so we know how many people will be there and can resource that appropriately. But this is just a great chance for us to say thank you to all of our staff for the work they do throughout the year.
Okay, I guess, Dr. Bridgers, do you have anything else to
No,
add?
no other updates. No other updates. Sean gave all the updates for the agency, so thank you.
Excellent. Dr. Stoddard, do you have any comments, remarks?
Yeah, I just wanted to say on the public safety front, we became aware on Sunday, I believe, evening about the reports involving a car rally that was being held in a business parking lot in Rockville. I spoke to the district commander for the first district this morning, and we are, I'm not going to talk about exactly what we're going to do because obviously we want to be able to either have people not show up or if they're going to show up, catch them in the act. And so they are preparing sort of a response to prevent those car rallies in the future. And should they occur, being able to address them in real time as we have in other places across the county. I will also note on this front that we've been actually working with both the state of Maryland, Maryland State Police, and some of our counterparts from the Eastern Shore. Ocean City had a huge problem with car rallies for a long period of time and has managed to take some measures that have curbed those behaviors. Now, obviously, Ocean City is a little bit geographically different from Montgomery County in the sense that there's a one-way, or there's really two ways into a barrier island and two ways out, which makes it a lot easier to restrict movement. But they did give us some helpful tips that we are working with in conjunction with the state's attorney's office as well to try and implement moving forward. And so we are obviously awaiting an opportunity to leverage some of those new tools to see how we can address these car rallies. But this is something that we find particularly disruptive to our community, and we're going to address those things moving forward. So I just want to give that update.
Thank you, Dr. Stoddard. Members of the media, any questions now for the county executive and the other county officials? I do see Ms. Hackabee, Bethesda Today.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. I would like to talk a little bit more about the issue of reserves in your proposed budget. There was a lot of talk at the council yesterday, various members saying that with everything going on in the world right now under the Trump administration and otherwise, that we should actually be having more money in our reserves this year, not less than what was in the budget for the last fiscal year. So I just wanted to get your take on that.
This is really problematic. The budget we're proposing, we cut actual things out of our budget that we'd like to have that, we decided I guess I made a decision that I would do as little to harm people as I possibly could. And so we took things out that didn't necessarily have a direct human impact, not meaning that we don't need them, but they had to be prioritized. The only way you're going to get more reserves and basically hold on to taxpayer money and not spend it is if you're going to wind up cutting services much more deeply. And I'm not sure how that's a good thing to do. That is not the only choice. The choice would be to do something with taxes to give yourself some space. Over the years, I've been pointing out that we needed to raise our tax rate. Our budget shouldn't rely on reserves in order to be paid for. But the council has willingly used reserves. In other years, they've gone deeper into the reserves than I've gone to avoid raising taxes. One year, they took federal money, $40 million of federal money, to balance the budget, money that wasn't intended for what it got used for, to balance the budget on the schools. Your tax rate has to reflect what it costs to run the county government. And if you're not going to do that, you can't do the things that we're doing today. And I don't understand why you would let Donald Trump, whose main goal is to destroy government and shrink what you do, why you would enable him to carry that out in Montgomery County, which is essentially what you're doing. And it's a real problem. If they're going to cut this budget, There are going to be people who aren't going to get fed. There are going to be people who aren't going to get housing. There aren't any really good income outcomes that come from doing this. There are possibly some other things they could look at. I've pointed out that, our OPEB system, where you have county residents paying for retiree benefits this year and then paying for future county benefits 15 or 20 years from now, so that people 20 years from now don't have to pay the current cost of retiree benefits. You're making Montgomery County residents pay the current cost plus the future cost of those benefits. That doesn't make sense to me. And it was a mistake to treat it like a pension when they did it. But it's time for us to rethink and come up with a different formula for how we deal with that money. The county, I've pointed out our tax comparison to everybody around us. It's not like we're a high tax jurisdiction. Every time they say that people are going to go to Virginia, I just keep looking at Tyson's Corner and saying, look at the tax rates in Tyson's Corner and tell me about how that kept people out. If go further than that, our impact taxes, when we use them, the cheapest place to develop in Montgomery County were the urban centers like downtown Bethesda with the lowest fees for infrastructure. In Northern Virginia, the most expensive place to develop in Northern Virginia are the centers of transportation and economic development. So we've done the reverse of everything Virginia has done, and we got nothing to show for it. Nothing. Being cheap did not win this. Having a lower tax rate didn't bring people here. And now to look at this and now use Trump as an excuse not to address the needs of the community is really bothersome. But this is their budget now.
I was going to say, if I could just quickly follow up, would you rather see the council actually adopt a tax rate that's higher than what you proposed if their desire is to not dip into reserves, rather than cut services that you've included in the budget?
I'd rather them have the patience to stick with this and to try to, double down on some of the steps we've made to try to increase business here. We've made a lot of effort in trying to diversify the economy. We're hoping in the next year we get to see more opportunities to do that. There are opportunities out there for us to grow, but we've got to take advantage of them. But if you're going to give people a permanent tax break for something you do, then you don't get any tax benefit out of it. So I'm a big believer that you've got to be much more careful about what you're doing than we're being. And I would rather stick with the tax rate and the reserves we've got and manage this. I mean, the worst that happens is you actually dip below 10%. And the county has a law that says if you dip below 10%, then you have 3 years to get back to 10%. I'd have no doubt that, once the worst of Trump is over, we should be able to be back on a much more healthy economy again. We didn't drop in revenues because of something internal to Montgomery County. We mostly dropped because the federal government's behavior is so erratic and so anti-business, particularly businesses that are located in Montgomery County, that, it's like we get hit disproportionately. I don't picture that as a perpetual state of being.
Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne Pollack, Montgomery Community Media. Good afternoon, Suzanne. Go ahead.
Hi, Dr. Stoddard. I was just curious. I just want to make sure, is the proposed or whatever car rally for this Sunday coming up, or you already got?
No, these were there was media reporting yesterday on a business that was reporting that a car rally had occurred multiple times in its parking lot of its business. They were doing donuts in the parking lot, and there was a couple hundred people based on the cameras at the private. It was private property parking lot, and they were essentially raising this as a public safety concern. When I spoke to the police department, they were told that they were only initially called about it after the second or third time that this had occurred over the weekend, and obviously had not had an opportunity to intervene. And, furthermore, I think it's important to understand with these car rallies, if you don't get advance warning about the car rallies and you just learn about them as they're happening, it's very difficult and very unsafe because we don't have a ton of officers operating at 3 o'clock in the morning because we don't get a ton of calls for service at 3 o'clock in the morning. So you'd effectively have to muster the entire police department from across the entire county and take away calls, not respond to calls for service anywhere in order to manage a car rally for which you had no warning that was several hundred cars on a private parking lot. And so because we've learned that this has been an ongoing behavior over the weekend, we can now strategize on how to address it prospectively. And that's exactly what the police department is doing. And so we don't know that there's going to be a car rally again this weekend, but given that there has been several in recent weeks, typically Saturday into Sunday in the 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning time frame at this one particular business. Now that we know that that's occurring, we can actually, schedule some additional resources during that time window in preparation for preventing the next one.
And can you say what the name of the business is?
I don't want to misquote it, but I can get it to you afterwards. It's on Goody Drive. It's one of those industrial. I think it's a glass company. I can get you the name. I don't have it off the top.
Okay. All right. All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Dr. Stoddard. Suzanne, did you have a question for Dana Polly since you asked her to remain on the call?
No, sorry. That got answered, but thanks.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Dana, you can remain here or you can.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
You have to. Thank you. Dominique Moody, NBC4. Good afternoon, Dominique. Go
Hello.
ahead.
Good afternoon. Thank you for taking my question. I just wanted to ask the county executive or anyone within the county just about with this latest news from WSSC about the reduction of fluoride in the water supply. I just wanted to get the county's, response to that. If there's any statements, anything that residents need to know in relation to that. That's all.
I guess, they don't have a choice if they can't get the supply. I mean, if they're not able to, get fluoride, that's just a fact they have to deal with. I don't know how they could maintain it if they don't have it. So, there are systems, of course, that don't use fluoride at all. I happen to believe that fluoride ought to be used. I don't think not having it's going to make the water, they're not saying not having it, they're saying reduce the levels. So there'll still be some fluoride in there, just less than what we're used to. So I guess, I wish it didn't have to happen, but you can't tell them to get supply if they can't get the supply. And, Trump's done a marvelous job of disrupting the economy. So it's another gift from him.
I'm sure our public health team could comment on this, but as a general principle, fluoride in water is really meant to address dental caries. It basically improves tooth strength and reduces cavities in when it's in municipal water treatment. That's been why it's been done for over 100 years across the majority of the country. And so a reduction in the fluoride in water can largely be offset by using toothpaste with supplemental fluoride in it, for example. But it would not make the water any less safe to drink. It would simply potentially reduce the protective effects that fluoride might have for reducing dental caries if done for an extended period of time. Hopefully, this is a short-term issue for WSSC that can be addressed simply by the supply chain catching up, at which each time they would normalize the fluoride in the water and the protective effects would be restored to where they currently are.
Any other questions, Dominique?
No, thank you both. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, there you are. Go ahead.
Sorry, this one's a quick yes or no. Mr. County Executive, are you going to sign that bamboo bill?
I may sign it and then send over amendments. We're talking about what the impact is on the department. They didn't talk to people over here about doing this and enforcing it. So our folks have some trepidation about the bill right now, but we'll see.
Thank you.
We've got time to amend it and make some suggestions if the department finds it not workable.
All right, thank you, everyone. Any additional questions for the county executive this afternoon or county officials? No more questions? I guess we're done this afternoon. Thank you everyone for joining us. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Take care.